With God's help, we are now beginning to learn this week's Torah portion in the Chumash, which is called Parshas Kitisa. Parshat Kitisa. And Tisa means when you lift up. More exactly, in this case, it means when you count the number of Jews. We'll talk about it. And the way that all the Jews were counted was that every Jew has to give the same amount of money, which was called a half of a shekel. How big is a shekel? How much was it? You see, there's different opinions. It's not really that important for us now. It is sort of important because there's a commandment, a custom in any case, to give half of a shekel on right before Purim. So there's different questions about how big that is, if it's just a half of whatever coin there is in that country. In America, it'd be a half a dollar. In Israel, it'd be half a shekel. Some people say it's a certain measure of silver corresponding to what was back then. In any case, everybody had to give the same amount of half of a shekel. And then it talks a little bit about the people who built the Mishkan, Betzalel, and Ahaliav. And then we get to the part of the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf, that Moses said he was going to come back in 40 days. And everybody, all the Jews miscalculated, and they thought that Moses was not going to come back, that he came back late. After 6 hours, they waited, and then they worshiped the golden calf. Okay, why that happened? Then the terrible punishment that occurred from that. Shalom, terrible, awful, awesome punishment that Moses broke the tablets, and God wanted to wipe out the Jews, and Moses prayed, and he didn't, as we talked about this morning in the Dvar Malchut class. Okay, let's go. But now we're doing, here's the source. Exactly the words that God spoke 3,334 years ago. Here we go. Let's go over the words quickly first, and then we will go a little bit of the commentary. God spoke to Moses to say over to the Jewish people, when you take the number of the Jewish people, to know how many there are, but not know each kofar, that everybody has to give a certain amount for his soul to God. When you count them, so that there will not be a plague on the Jewish people when you count them. And Rashi explains why, because you're not supposed to count people. So everybody gave money, so you count the money, and on the money there won't fall a curse. But if you count people, there could be a curse on the number of people, and that's what happened with David. King David, he made a census how many people there were, and because of that, there was a tremendous plague that visited the Jewish people. There's a discussion about that also. How could David make such a mistake? And he said he didn't make a mistake, but in fact, he did take money. He did not count the people, but the reason that he made the counting was for the wrong reason. It wasn't what necessary. Okay, let's just continue with the text. This you should do. Everyone who passes through this count, this census, should give a half of a shekel. And the shekel kodesh, a half of this coin in the holy coin. There's now, how much is the coin? A full coin is 20 gera. And you have to give a half of it, 10 gera for the shekel. That's what. Why doesn't it just say give 10 gera? Oh, that's a question. But nevertheless, that's what God decided to say. Ha'ashir lo call over ala pagodim. Everyone that is counted. Who is counted? All the women, all the babies? No. Only mi ben esrim shana v'mala. Only the men, ben esrim shana v'mala, 20 years old and up. Seems up to 120. Other people say no, only the number of people that were from 20 to 60. We'll see why in a minute. Mala yitain trumat Hashem should give this gift. Ha'ashir, a rich person shouldn't give any more. A poor person can't give any less, because if they give more or less, you won't know how many people there are. Then a half of a shekel to give this Truma Hashem, to bring forgiveness on your soul. Everybody gets counted. You have to give this money from the Jewish people and put it for the service of the Ohel Moed. And it says 3 times, it says shekel over here, and this, which hints at 3 different types of use that's used these things. V'hoya live in Israel, the zikron, in front of a god, chaper al nosif. Okay. Here we go. God spoke to Moses to say, he says, every place where it's mentioned, Nosei Rosh, that lifting up the head of the Jewish people, it's talking about counting them, because by means of the counting, the Jewish people are elevated even more than all of the other nations, because the number shows that the Jewish people, each and every individual, is important. This is the Kli Ykar. Rabbi, was it Elio Shlomo Lunshitz? He was in the time of the Maharal of Prague, in like, what is it, 300 years ago, something. Anything that's not important, like straw or something like that, you don't count it. But the Jewish people, they are like wheat. Therefore, it says that it says in the Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, it says, remember we talked about that in the morning, it says, your stomach is like a pile of wheat. Who would say something like that? But what does this mean? Kikol arema, because every single pile of wheat is something that's important, and therefore you count it. It wants to know how many piles there are. Also, the same thing is, it says your stomach is like a pile of wheat. God is praising the Jews. Why? Because the stomach of every single Jew is important. What is this talking about? What does it mean? You'll see. Very interesting how he says. Why does it say the stomach? Why doesn't it say the head? The head is important. It says count the head. Why does King Solomon say your stomach is important? Because the head, there's a big difference between the Jewish people and the non-Jewish people. Because the name of God is called on the head of the Jewish people, Rosh Yisrael. But because of the stomach, all of them seem to be the same thing. All of them eat and they eat. But really the fact is, it's not so. The stomach, right? By the head, it says the Jewish people are wise, Am Chacham v'Navon. But the stomach, everybody's the same. It says no. Fact is, by the stomach, that's what King Solomon is hinting at when he says your stomach is like a pile of wheat. It's like, because a pile of wheat is very important. You want to know how many piles you have. And the stomach, also, the Jews are praised for their stomach, because the Jews don't eat the same thing as everybody else. They only eat what it says is kosher according to the Torah. Because that's what it says in Mishle, in Proverbs, Ki naim ki tishmorim b'beten. It's pleasant when a person protects his stomach. And like it says, your King David said, your Torah is in my stomach. This was when you shouldn't say that the Jewish people, there's no better advantage to the Jewish people over the non-Jews, except for their head. The Jewish people learn Torah. So that's why the Jewish people are better than they're different from everybody else, because they have the Torah that are wise and understanding people. But it's not so. In matters of the body, that we see that it's not that the Jewish people are not like everybody else. But the fact is, even in their stomach, that they are totally different. And that's why it says that the Jewish people are like a pile. They're important, not only because of their head, but also because of the difference that they are of their stomach, that what raises them up. They eat differently than everybody else. Eat only kosher. When you elevate the heads of the Jewish people of Korea, and everybody should give a kofer nafsho, like a forgiveness for his soul to God when he is counted, and they shouldn't be a plague among the Jewish people. Rashi, kitisa, when you lift up, this means like receiving. What does it mean, receiving? Aret kabel. This is the Aramaic. When you receive the number of the Jewish people, right? You raise the number. In other words, you want to know how many. How did they say in English? Let me just. All right. Anyway, okay. When you want to know a certain amount of how many people there are, so don't count the Jewish people by their bodies or their heads, but everybody should give a half of a shekel, and then count the shekels. Then you'll know how many there are. That's what it means kitisa. When you want to come up to a sum, you want to know how many there are, and then there won't be a plague. It says there won't be a plague because a number. If there's a number, it elevates the people, but the problem is there's jealousy, and jealousy is very dangerous. That's called ayin hara, evil eye. And therefore, a dever bo'aleim, and because of this evil eye, it could be that a plague will come on them, like we find in the days of King David. Like we said to King David, he says this, it says Siftei Chachamim, says that David counted them, and he didn't use the half shekels, and he wanted to do it for the service of God. Nevertheless, there was a terrible plague on the Jewish people. And let's look at the BalHaTurim one moment. BalHaTurim, Yaakov BalHaTurim. Kitisa, this comes right after. Do you remember what it said right in the end of last week's Torah portion? The last week's Torah portion, it talked about the golden altar. Remember, right in the end, it talked about the whole Torah portion. Last week was talking about the garments of the Kohanim and the inauguration of the tabernacle, and all of a sudden, in the end, it comes up with the altar, the golden altar, which was in the holy, where it was used to make incense. So it says this golden altar can only be used for burning incense, except one time in the year, on Yom Kippur. It says that the blood will be sprinkled on the corner, like these little towers. They're called the horns of the tabernacle. It talks about the horns. So it says that's what it means. The Karen. Now the word Karen means a lot of things. It means the horns, and it means but it also means a corner, a Karen. So it says this teaches that Rama Karnam Shel Yisrael, that there will be elevated the glory, like the horns, the glory of the Jewish people will be elevated. How will it be elevated? By taking their number. That's like what the Kli Ykar said, that this stresses the importance of every single Jew. This is what was done on Yom Kippur, L'chaper, because on Yom Kippur, everybody had to give a forgiveness for their soul. Everyone is counted, because that's a good time to give charity, is on Yom Kippur. And this is what's being given here. Everybody has to give charity to the Holy Temple, a half of a shekel. Also, if you say Kitisa at Rosh, B'nai Yisrael, if you take just the first letters, Taf, Aleph, Rosh, Beit, this comes out to the number Taf, Reish, Beit. Taf, Reish, Beit. What's this Taf, Reish, Beit? 603. This counts as the 600. This was there was 600,000, 603,000. That's the number that we're going to get in the end. And also the Jewish people, they came out to 603,000 Jews. But not new, you should give this charity to the holy temple, to the tabernacle, to the holy temple. Not new. Interesting, this word not new, and they should give it. If you read it backwards, it's the same word. Then not new. So it says this tells you that if you give, it goes back and forth the same word, telling you that if you give charity, not new. If you give charity, yachzor, it will come back to you. Says you give it and it bounces back. The same word comes back to you. But lo yachzor, you won't be, if you give charity, you won't be lacking anything at all. Interestingly enough, in all these sentences we're going to have here, 3 times is mentioned the word pekudim. 3 times this word machzis, 3 times it's mentioned the term machzis a shekel, half a shekel. 3 times it's mentioned the word kofer nafshel. 3 times it's mentioned lechaper. 3 times it's mentioned Bnei Yisrael. This is all why 3 times? In order to bring forgiveness for 3 things. 3 things. 3 punishments. 3 punishments that can come on the Jewish people if they sin. And this is averted by all these number 3s we have. 3 types of punishment. What is it? War, hunger, and sickness. Became no more God. That's what God, the prophet, God said to King David when he counted the Jewish people, Shlosh ani notel alecha. Because you counted the Jewish people improperly, so I'm going to give you 3 punishments, and that's what it was: war, hunger, and so. So this averted that punishment. Let's just do one more. Or hachayim over here. Here. Why does it say leaf kudehem? You haven't got, there is no permission to count the Jews unless pekudehem. Now the word pekudehem means that also something is missing. Pokad moshevecha. Pokad means something is missing. Only when there's Jews that are missing. If you suspect that maybe there's a reason that some Jews might be missing in battle or whatever, perish. If there's lacking from some of the Jews, and you want to know how many are remaining, or you want to prepare those people that are missing, like go to battle or something, like you want to know how many people you've got because they went into war or because some other reason that there was maybe a plague on the Jews or whatever. And so it comes to say that you cannot count them. It's forbidden to count the Jews with no reason at all. That's why it says vin not new kofer. Vin not new. That's why it says vin not new. The Kli Ykar said if you can read it back and forth, the same word, but here he learns a different way. He says a different implication. In the Tosfot Vav, and give, because it's a condition, another condition on the first condition, that first of all, in order to count them, we said it has to be if you suspect that maybe there's some Jews missing. And also, there's another condition. Each person has to give a certain amount of money, whatever it is, or give something, and don't count the people. And because a plague only happens when the Jewish people are guilty, like of the Egil, for instance, when they serve the golden calf. But for the future generations, you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to count them with money or something. You can count them individually by people. Yud Gimel. The Kli Ykar, he and also the Ramban, which we didn't get to this, they're going back and forth about exactly what were these 3 trumas, what were they used for? The 3 donations that were imposed upon the Jewish people, what were they used for? So there's different opinions what they're. Right? He brings 3 opinions. We'll do Rashi, and that'll be the main one that we'll go according to. Yud Gimel. Okay, how much should everybody give? Everyone who gets counted should have to give a half a shekel from the holy shekel. There's 20 geras in a full shekel, and you only have to give a half of it to God. From this, they learn a lot in Chassidut also, that why not just say give 10 shekels? What does it have to say? You have to give a half, right? And a whole one is 20, and you have to give half. Just say give 10. What is it? And also, why give 10? Why not give 20? What's the problem? In the Holy Temple, everything was supposed to be whole. So it's explained that no, if you give 10, then God gives the other 10. God will react to what you do. And the 10 you have to give is all the 10 powers of your soul. And if you do that, then God reacts with his 10 aspects also. Rashi says, Ze yitnu, this is what you have to give. These two words are totally superfluous. What do you have to say, Ze yitnu? Just say, anyone who gets counted has to give a half a shekel. What do you say? This is what you should give. Of course, this is what you should give. Rashi says, no. It's coming, God is coming to tell us that back then, that God is speaking to Moses, and he showed him a coin, shel eish, a fire, umishkel, and how much did it weigh? A half of a shekel. And this is what you should give. So it says, there's Tosfos also, why did God have to show him a fiery coin? Everybody had to give a fiery coin. How do you make a fiery coin? Who's going to give a thing like that? How are you going to take it? So he says, no, what it means is that Moses had a big question. It says that if you give this, Matzah shekel, this will bring forgiveness for your soul, it says. Half of a shekel. We said it before, and we'll say it again here. Excuse me. Back to here. Lechaper koifer nefesh says it'll bring forgiveness. Remember, it says it 3 times. We just finished that Kli Ykar. Koifer nefesh, it'll bring forgiveness for your soul. Moses had a big question. How can a coin give forgiveness for your soul? So it says that God showed him a coin of fire, that if you give charity and what you give, if you give it with enthusiasm, then that can completely fix up your soul. Over Alapakudim says the way people used to be counted was that people would go one after the other, and they would go under what is like a stick or something, and you would count them. And that's how sheep are counted. So that's used as a term for counting. Over Alapakudim, you go through the counting number. It says, but Jews don't have to be counted in this case. They only have to do is give half of a shekel. So it says, how much is that? It's a shekel of kodesh. He goes through a big explanation of how big it is and how much it is in it. How big is the kodesh? It's a ma'ah. And also in Shmuel, it says, agaros kesef. It says shekel, a whole shekel is 4 zuz. 1 zuz is 5 ma'ah. Ma'os. So in other words, there's 20 ma'os in a shekel. But here it's coming, you have to add on 1/6, and 1/6, it comes out to the half of a shekel, and that's what it's talking about, Trumas Hashem. In other words, it comes out to be 20, but the 20 is a little bit bigger. That's why it's called the Gera, etc. Beautiful Ramban over here, but we do not have time to do the whole thing here. Let's do the BalHaTurim first of all. The BalHaTurim. Oh, this is what you should give. Ze yitnu kol over. This is the gematria. Ze yekamin mapeshalish. He was a genius in gematrias. Count the letters here. You'll see that the numerical value of this sentence is the same numerical value as this sentence. This is what should be given. It says it will be like a coin of fire. Ze yitnu. Ze is the gematria of 12, that all the 12 tribes have to give. Some people say that Shevet Levi did not give. It says 20 gera. The 20 gera is the gematria of Ashir Vadal. Esrim there's the gematria of Ashir, a rich person, Vidal, and a poor person. Right? It's the same. Ashir is the same as this, and you just take the mem as the gematria of Dal. That everyone was equal. Shekel is the gematria of nefesh. Shebolech haper al nefesh. Shekel is the same numerical value as the word nefesh, because this comes to bring forgiveness on the soul. Here's the Or HaChaim. Let's just look at this here. Okay, what does the sentence say? The sentence says, let's go from the beginning here. When you take the head or the number of the Jewish people, lifkudehem, for their number, to count them, and everybody should give the forgiveness of his soul, so that there shouldn't be a plague on the Jewish people. Okay, all these words have other meanings that they're very commonly used in Hebrew for other things. Ki tisa means to elevate. It also means ki tisa means to be lifted away. Elevate the Jewish people. Lifkudehem, when something is missing. We said that before. Lifkudehem, only when someone is missing, we suspect someone is missing, can we count them? Okay, what is also the head of the Jewish people? So we're going to see the Or HaChaim says this is talking about when the tzaddikim pass away. Ki tisa, when there is taken Rosh, the head of the Jewish people, lifkudehem, and he's missing the righteous people. Let's have a look. We'll see. Excuse me. Here it is. B'derech Remez. Let's explain like this. It says, the Torah is coming to tell us that a big secret of God, that when he does in his world, is a thing which anyone who sees is astounded. Namely, when a righteous people, a righteous man, holy, honest, dies before his time. Yachatzu yamav, that's what it means, half of his shekels, taken away in half of his days. Kamishpat amechayev lanshe damim umirma, that should happen to evil people. And instead of it happening to evil people, right, the evil people live a long time, and the righteous people, they die early. Yivahalu rayani, and it destroys the mind of people, lachshov, to understand, echad mi beis derachim. How can it be that this person is so righteous and he's so holy and he passed away early, or he passed away at all? How could it be? So a person might come to conclude one of two ways. Oh, yachish. Oh, yachish. Oh, he will deny. And what was this? I read it before. Oshira tzadikim ki ein tov b'amal elokai. Oh, he'll think that maybe there's no reward for being good. Maybe there's no point in being good. I mean, these people all die. We had the Holocaust, for instance. Of course, he lived way before the Holocaust, but the Holocaust was not the first time that Jews, righteous Jews, were killed en masse. Right? There was before. There was always these pogroms and things. So a person can say two things. If there's a big tzaddik, a big righteous person, the Arizal or something, he died at 35 years old, whatever, and he passes away, and so a person will think, King David, what if King David passed away at 70? It's not that old. You can think, well, listen, maybe there's no such thing as good and bad. Maybe, or maybe you can think like this. Maybe this person, God is right. God is okay, but this person must have had something under the some hidden sins. And it wasn't hidden. It wasn't revealed. Or maybe it wasn't even revealed to him, to this person. And all of a sudden, the good that he had, the 99.999% of good that he had, this one little bit of bad, maybe that wrecked it up. That's what you might think, because you want to come to understand it. How could it be that this righteous person, he got sick and died, and the evil people, they're all successful and they become the heads of countries or whatever they've done? How could it possibly be? So you think, well, Manatooth, either maybe God's whole system of justice is not right. That seems to be pretty logical. Or maybe we can say, listen, maybe God is okay, but maybe this person, he wasn't such a big righteous person after all. That's why it says in the Torah, Ki tisad rosh bnei Yisrael. What does it mean? If you see that there's taken away the head of the Jewish people early, and you cannot find out any reason why, Ka'alos Gadish B'ito, it's like if you burn up whatever a person's field, something like that. The reason is Lifkudehem. The reason that the righteous people pass away early is because of Pikudehem. There's something missing. Who's missing? Pikudehem. Something is missing from them. Like it says in Shir Hashirim, Esh Kol HaKofer Dodi Leave. It says that there's Esh Kol HaKofer, that the righteous are forgiveness for my beloved. What does it mean? Ish Shakolbo, Eshkol. Sometimes there's a person that he's like full, like a cluster of grapes, and he knows all the Torah and knows everything, and he's a perfect tzaddik. Sometimes he'll die for the sake of the Jews. Lashon Chisaron. That's what it says. If God takes away the head of the Jewish people, the reason is Livkudehem, because the Jewish people are missing something. The Jewish people, and like it says, Lo nifkad mimenu ish ki latzad chisron Yisrael, because the Jewish people, they were punishable for what they did. So therefore, God said, I'm not going to take them. I'll take the head of the Jewish people, and that will forgive the Jewish people. That's what it says, Livkudehem, like it says in the Zohar, because it call over al pekudim, call over al mitzvos. If a person transgresses, call over transgresses and a commandments. That's the reason is the Jewish people are deserving of a punishment is because they transgress the commandments of God. So now a person shouldn't think that it's bad, that God is not just, or maybe this tzaddik is not so righteous, and that the patient person passes away. Let's just go to the DatZkanim. I wish we had time. We could do the Kli Ykar, but okay. Max is a shekel, a half of a shekel, to bring forgiveness on the half of the day that the Jewish people sinned. It says that Rabbi Akiva Bo Shesh says the Jewish people waited from the morning until 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and they said 6 hours has already passed, and Moses has not come back. Therefore, we're going to worship the golden calf. That's the chav. That's what it means. The 20 gera on the shekel. This is the half of the 10. The 10 is the 10 commandments that the Jewish people transgressed on them. That's what he says. These are the 5. It says that there's 5 fingers. Half of the 10 is the 5 fingers of God. All of them are singled out from the future redemption. With his small finger, he showed Noah how to make the ark, like it says, V'zeh asher taseh. He pointed, this is what you should make. With the second finger, the one next to is the ring finger, as this is the one that he smote the Egyptians with, like it says, Etzbeh Elokim. In the third finger, the middle finger, he said, he showed Moses the tablets that were written with the finger of God. With the pointing finger, the fourth finger, this is right the one next to the thumb, as he showed Moses the moon to show when the when is the new moon? Zeh Yikadesh, he said. HaChodesh Hazeh, said Rosh Chodeshim. And with his thumb, he showed this half of a shekel. That's what it says, Zeh Yitnu, the whole hand, this, Zeh, held up his hand, the hand of God is going to destroy all of the Bnei Yishmael, the people from whatever, the Arabs that make trouble with us, or Bnei Aram, and the whatever is the Europeans or whatever that make trouble with us. Tarum Yado, on the other hand, they will lift up his hand on the enemy. That's pretty nice. All right. Kol over la pekudim, anyone who transgresses on the pekudim from 20 years and above should give this truma to God. From here we learn that anyone who's less than 20 cannot go out to war. That's what he says. A pekudim, menimna bichlal anashim. This is counted only men. Like pekudei at tzava, the people who have to go pekudei chayil, because those people are counted. The word pekudim is used in connection with the soldiers all the time. A rich person can't bring any more. Oh, 1 second, there was one. Oh, it says miben esrim shana umala. Everybody has to give a shekel from ben esrim shana. What are the last letters of this? Hey mem nun. Haman. Haman was the evil man that wanted to destroy the Jews. Said Haman he himself was destroyed. Why? Because of the shekels. He said he gave, what is it? Saras Elafim shekel kesef. He gave money, shekels, to Achashverosh so that I can kill the Jews. And Achashverosh said, no, take the money. I don't need the money. But Haman he thought that with his money that he could negate the holiness and the merit of the Jews in the shekalim. But he didn't. He was wrong. And that's what it says. These last 20 years old and up, they gave these shekels, and the shekels were the things that eventually was one of the things that contributed to Haman's downfall. Therefore, the last letter is Ha, He, Mem, Nun, Haman. Ha'ashir, the rich person, can't give any more. A poor person can't give any less than 1/2 of a shekel to give the donation to God to bring forgiveness on your soul. It says the 3 times as mentioned over here. You should not get punished because of counting. Another explanation, what is it? That's what it means, lechaper, to bring forgiveness. Another means of lechaper al nafshos lechem. There's 3. How do you say that? This is 3 forgivenesses that's brought by these shkalim. 3. What are they? This is hinted at 3 different types of donations that were given here. Truma says Trumat Hashem. Truma is mentioned 3 times. Truma, the word Truma is mentioned. Trumas Hashem is mentioned 3 times. One of them is for the Adanim. The Adanim were the sockets that held up the boards that constituted the walls of the Holy of Holy and the Holies in the tabernacle. This was counted when they back then. Remember when we said a Truma in Parshas Truma, what everybody gave, and then also everybody gave 1/2 of a shekel, and they came up to Mea Kikar, like it says the Kesef Pekudei Ayida Mea Kikar. And from this was made the Adanim. This was made the shekel kesef, the silver was made the sockets that held up the boards. The other one, this was by this counting, like he counted. The Jewish people counted when they stood up the Mishkan, when they stood up the altar, that says over in the beginning of Chumash Pekarim, which is mentioned at the beginning of the book of Numbers. If you remember, the Rebbe figured it out, and really the next Rashi is going to say it, but we won't have time to do it, that the sin of the golden calf happened before the tabernacle was set up, which sort of it makes sense, because the sin of the golden calf happened when the first tablets were supposed to have been given, and the Mishkan was set up afterwards, way afterwards. And that was said after the second tablets were given. The third one is the Chumash of Mishkan, like it said before, and this is supposed to be also to bring forgiveness for the sin of the golden calf. Let's just do this last one here. Take this silver, this money of the forgiveness money from the Jewish people. God is speaking to Moses, and give it for the service of the Oel Moed, for the tabernacle. And it will be for the Jewish people a remembrance in front of God to bring forgiveness for their soul. And here was where Rashi proves that the Mishkan was after the sin of the golden calf, as God willing we'll have to look at next time. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Tomorrow morning, 8:15, be with us. Looking forward to seeing you all. Shalom uvracha.